What is up, guys? Welcome to another Scythe versus. This episode stars General Graardor and Bandos Godwars. This, of course, one of the more, I would say, anticipated places to use the Scythe, just because of some of the content creators who had access to some of the Scythe, or rather, excuse me, the Theater of Blood weapons prior to the theater actually coming out in game, and were able to test them out in Cambridge at Jagex Studios. So a lot of people expected a lot of big things from the Scythe at Bandos. A lot of people were like, oh, the Justiciar armor is going to be so good for tanking and stuff. Turns out that's garbage. We can make a whole nother video on why Justiciar is bad. It's just, tank armor is not good, chat. It's just bad. Don't get it. It's just bad. It's just bad. So anyway, instead, what I would recommend is that you do not wear tank armor, and instead you wear a full set of Bandos, and you take on a lovely Sunday, get your Twitch chat together, and come and do some Bandos God Wars. Have a good old time. As usual, it's God Wars, so it's crazy boring, so I've sped up this footage a lot because, quite honestly, I'm really tired of splitting out individual kills because it's early in the morning, and I go on vacation in like 6 hours. And I'm trying to get these videos finished for you all. So this is just a sped up version. I apologize, but the commentary is still genuine and still as it would be. So just enjoy the sped up footage because there's some goofy stuff going on in the background. Anyway, let's get to the topic at hand. The Scythe at Bandos God Wars. What do I think? How did it do? So obviously testing in a bit of an interesting format here. The Scythe in this format has to be the best. I mean, as long as you have a spec weapon, you do claws to the Scythe. The Scythe's giving you the best chance at like doing a lot of damage very quickly. It's probably the single hardest hitting weapon that you can use after like a claw spec. We really only, in a lot of these clips, you'll see you only get a chance to get in about 2 hits before Graardor goes down. So having the Scythe right after a claw spec is great for free-for-alls. So pretty good marks there. However, I don't exactly know if the Scythe is really meant for Bandos God Wars. Now, here's the thing. It's probably better than all the alternatives, but it just doesn't feel like... It's not like Thermi, where you're just swinging and stuff is melting. You know, it doesn't feel like that. You're not really melting through Graardor all the time. Yes, you do occasionally have these big hits where you're like, oh my god, big XP drop, I wonder what that was. But most of the time, it's kind of like, you know what? Yeah, I think I'm probably doing more damage than a whip. Probably keeping my DPS higher than just a God Sword that's swinging. But, you know, quite honestly, the Scythe, this is not a, you know, it doesn't shine here. It's probably best in slot. But in all honesty, I don't think this is like, you know, one of those places like, oh, why should I get a Scythe? I'm not going to tell you because Bandos God Wars is revolutionarily changed. It's definitely not. It's basically the same. Now, of course, with every other place that we take the Scythe, the same problem occurs where you have the occasional little thing, little minion, as they're called in God Wars, walk under the boss, and you will start hitting the minion instead of the boss. Now, in Bandos, not as big of an issue as you might expect. For the free-for-all, it was rarely a problem, but because Strong Stack is so small, and because typically your whole team spawns on one side, and just because the melee minion spawns in a very particular location, it's actually really hard for him to walk under you. Normally at Bandos, if you're in a small team, you're camping your team on the other wall. Not the wall that he spawns on, but the opposite wall. I believe that's the west wall. So you're all standing near the west wall. Graardor walks towards you. Strong Stack spawns right over there. So he's not going to be stuck between you and Graardor. He's not going to walk underneath you. He'll basically just be walking between your team. Now, as long as there isn't any weird pathing from Strong Stack, you shouldn't have any issues with him under the boss. So that's not really... He's not the biggest issue in the world. He's also not taking more than 1 hit away from your Scythe if he's taking hits away. So again, not a huge deal. Excuse me. I'm burping. Great commentary video so far. So the melee main is not taking hits away from you. Not the biggest issue in the world. It's not like Zami or Sarah where you're losing a lot of DPS and actually sometimes like making kills last like 2 or 3 times longer because you're basically killing a minion first. Not the case here, but I will say, again, the Scythe, while it does hit Graardor, probably better than pretty much all the other alternatives, it's just not butter. It really isn't. I can't believe it's not butter and it doesn't even taste like butter. It's kind of like, it's good tasting, but you know, it's not that delicious butter taste you know and love. It's just not the best thing in the world. So, all that being said, if you have a Scythe, take it to Bandos. Absolutely. I think one of the best parts about a Scythe is that it completely changes pretty much all the game. It's the whole game. That you'll find so many new things that, I mean, hitting things more than once is just so cool, and the Scythe just changes things. Just really does. It's a cool change of pace. It's a shame that there's really no other alternative to the whip, and like ways of dealing melee damage. There's just not a lot of unique ways of going about that, doing that. The Scythe finally has brought some variety to melee that, you know what, I think it kind of really desperately needed. So melee combat's kind of fun again. So is the Scythe fun at Bandos? Yeah, absolutely. Is it something that you absolutely have to get up right now and go try? It's revolutionizing the way we do Bandos Godwars? No, unfortunately not. Bandos meta really just hasn't changed all that much. If you see a Scythe log into your world, I wouldn't be afraid of that person crashing you. They're really, you know, yeah, they'll probably do more damage than you, but let's be honest. It's just not that big of a deal. It's really not that big of a deal. I told you it's late. I'm yawning. I'm doing a lot of talking. Anyway, guys, final verdict. A rating for the Scythe at Bandos Godwars. So here's the deal. Your average gear, whip, Bandos, Guthans, all that stuff, you know, how does that rate? Well, like I said, we put it at a 5. Where do I put the Scythe? I'm going to give the Scythe a 7 out of 10. Of course, we're on a scale of 10. I probably haven't said that a lot in the other videos, but, you know, it's a 1 to 10 thing. We're putting Scythe, or the normal gear, at a 5, and then the Scythe, I'll give it a 7. It's not outstanding. It's middle of the pack. It definitely gets a pass, but it is not changing the game. It is just kind of better. It's a nice little upgrade. That being said, I could definitely see why some people could think that the Scythe, it's pretty meh at Bandos. I could see that. I'm going to give it a better rating just because of the fun factor. Godwars is so boring. It really is. You kill the boss for like what? 3 seconds in this mass, and then you wait for like a minute and a half. Most of your time is spent standing around, and that's one problem that Godwars has had since release. It's a shame that the game has... It's a case of power creep. It's unfortunate, but what are you going to do? There's not really much fix to it. All that being said, Godwars is still really good money because Jagex has done a very good job with power creep. They've actually made it so that, you know, you need these old pieces of equipment, Armadillo, Bandos, etc., etc. So Bandos is still really good money, and it's not impossible for someone of a slightly lower level to take on Bandos Godwars. So get your shit together, chat. I don't know why I'm calling YouTube chat. I've been doing a lot of streaming, as you might know. It's kind of what I do now. That's why the YouTube is inactive. It's because I'm streaming. But yeah, Bandos and Scythe, we'll give it a 7. Wouldn't exactly recommend you take it here. But I will say, this mass was a lot of fun. We were there for about, I think, close to 5 hours. I think it amounted to like 4.5 hours. We got one of every drop, except for Bandos boots. So we ended up taking home, I got a hilt drop. I gave it away to someone who was in the room. I believe that was Tim. Congrats, Tim, on that. We did like a random roll. That was cool. Fanboy got Tacits, and Toast got BCP. So congrats to you guys. This was a really fun Bandos mass. We'll try to do more like in-game events like this more often because they're a little bit of fun. Just a little bit of fun. I'm trying to talk in a high-pitched voice every time I yawn because I can't stop the yawning, and it sounds like I'm not yawning. So that's why throughout this video, my voice has been getting strange. Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode of Scythe versus. Can't exactly recommend you go off and buy a Scythe and immediately take it to Bandos Godwars, but it is definitely an interesting and fun upgrade. Thank you guys so much for watching. Check out all the other episodes of Scythe versus as we watch Murray's cannon get obliterated by General Graardor here. And we'll also finish up with a little clip from the Bandos mass of our final drop. I will see you guys in the next one. Nick, I may have screwed that strong stack, but whoa! We got Tassies! Holy shit!
Nice. Who got it?
We got the freaking... Oh my god, guys.
We
got all 3 drops except for boots today.
Fuck me.
Oh my god. That's crazy.